What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. It's been a really, really hectic week for everyone. Juan's dying. I'm dying. We wished Adrian would die. So let's see what's going on here. I'll kick into it. We've got my lovely business partners, Gulf Oil. They hooked us up. We've got a Formula V event in about 3 hours with no notice. We're tuning an LS swapped BMW 316 over at another shop here in town for that client, going through some fuel pressure issues right now. So we'll be doing that at the event kind of thing, like back and forth between the shop, which is next to the racetrack, and going to the racetrack. And then this afternoon, we've got a car show where I guess we need to have a booth with merchandise to sell and a promo video to throw up on the Jumbotron in front of 5,000 spectators. So we're currently building that big promo video right now because there's no minute like the last minute.
That's insane.
So
I'll go next. As Seth said, I'm practically dying. Got a lot of shit going on medically wise, so I'm just trying to push through, man. It's been really crazy at the shop. I've got a surgery date of the 10th of September, so we've only got a couple more weeks left before I'll be down for a while. And so it's just been kind of crazy, man. We're kind of pulling all the stops out right now and getting all of our backlog getting through all of our backlog and getting everything done. That way, while I am at a limited capacity, we can work on our major projects we have left. But outside of that, man, I've been trying to get some racing in before I can't drive for a while, and at least drive competitively for a while. Last weekend, we raced at Carteret County Speedway. It was a blast. Thank you to Tracy. Shout out to Bobby. Appreciate you guys having us, as always. Track's phenomenal, man. We did pretty well. We fought our way through the pack, and we didn't win, but we finished in a better pole position than when we started. Got hit in the corner with 2 laps to go. Almost got put in the wall.
Yeah. So what's up with that hit?
You said what?
I said what's up with that hit?
So we come out of turn 4. Had a BMW behind me who was pushing. No, is that not what you meant?
Y'all there?
Yeah, we're here. Are you?
Just run with it, Juan.
Yeah, it sounds like Seth's having some technical difficulties. Yeah. They asked, Seth asked what happened with the hit. Long story short, had a BMW on my ass all night. I held them off for several laps, lap after lap. We ran 25 laps during our race, and with 2 laps to go, dive into turn 1, I kind of saw him on my inside, trying to make a pass down the front stretch. That didn't work out in his favor, or mine for that fact. I stayed in it as long as I possibly could going into turn 1. I look in my mirror, I see his nose dive just a bit, so I'm thinking, okay, he's on a brakes or he lifted. So I came down on him, and I came down just a little shallow. I thought I had more distance than what I did, and I ended up taking the front end of his car to the back left wheel, broke my trailing arm and sway bar, put me into a slide. We got some pretty gnarly pictures that just got published yesterday, so that's pretty cool to see. And the pictures they took were kind of in stages, so you can see from start to finish, how we ended up. All in all, we recovered, stayed off the wall. I radioed back to my spotter, and I asked him how many laps we got left to go. Something's definitely broke, so that was some of the communication between my spotter and I. Of course, initially it was, glad you didn't hit the wall. Everybody's safe. Great recovery. Got a lot of props for that. So I'm grateful for my team. And then, like I said, man, as soon as I got the car straightened back out, I kept rolling. I never stopped rolling. And I radioed back to my spotter, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, something's broke. Don't know what, but how many laps we got? And he said, we got 2 to go. I said, I'm staying. So they want, it was kind of, do I pit or do I not pit and check the car out while we're under caution? To me, it wasn't worth it with 2 laps to go. So got the caution, got the restart with 2 laps to go, and we were able to hold off our position. So we fell back 1 pole position, and we were able to recover from that, and we ended up 6th overall. So not a bad day, man. Definitely not a bad day. I'm thankful to be out here. I shared with some of the guys earlier in the group chat. I did get a check, so that was pretty cool. Don't know what for exactly because I don't feel like I won, but I take it where I can get it, right? So I got my first check from the Speedway, which is pretty cool. Nothing crazy, I'm not ashamed to say it, but we got a $50 check in the mail, so that was pretty sweet. Everybody starts somewhere, and we're getting back into it. So, like I said, I'm just trying to get out there and have fun before I have surgery. Like I said, we've got some major projects. Stay tuned because we have our wheelchair trike bike coming out. It's currently in the works with our fabricator. We've got our dirty air ride system already in the shop. And like I said, we're taking a gold wing, a 2-wheel gold wing, making it into a trike with a platform on air ride. So the gentleman that's going to can roll right into it with his power chair and use all hand controls. So it's a badass opportunity that came across my table about a year ago. The customer's out of state. He found us on social media, So, like I said, I'll take it where I can get it, man. We've got a couple other projects going on, and I had a client drop by this morning with a extra deposit and said, "Build me a bike." So, work never stops. I don't plan on stopping. Obviously, the surgery is going to slow me down a little bit, but we'll bounce back. We'll bounce back stronger. So that's all we can say.
Yeah, dude. Make sure you share the gold wing because we'll make sure we get that published out to our audiences as well for everyone
Yeah,
to
it's
check
going to
out.
be badass, man.
We'll do some publicity on that for sure.
Hell yeah.
See if we can get Golf Oil involved with that maybe or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Adrian, you already talk about parts that fit?
Hell yeah, dude. All the fucking parts that fit. So,
Right,
welcome back, everybody, to episode 19. Yeah, as Seth was saying, we're all fucking dying. It's been a long 3 days for me. And this is how I got into the situation, right? So, for those of you who don't know, my JZX 100 has a modified stock exhaust manifold to take a T3 turbo. I had a sponsor deal at the time. I got a GTX 3584, which is bigger than I wanted, but hey, I'm not going to say no to free. So I made it work. I put it on there. My buddy over at Odyssey Fab sent over the adapter for me. I made the downpipe. Everything was kosher. It was great. We went to the dyno and we were having some, I don't want to call it issues, because it's a new computer for that tuner and he doesn't really do standalones, and there were just a bunch of what ifs. So I guess taking the initiative to eliminate some of these what ifs, I went with a tubular manifold because we were making 420 something horsepower with like 24 psi of boost in this thing, and I'm like, this turbo on my 2J makes 550 like at 16, so something's off here. Anyways, yeah, so I had a dyno tune scheduled for Thursday yesterday. I ordered this manifold last week from this guy off Facebook Marketplace that was like, hey, it's on the shelf. I can ship it out relatively quick. I hit up a couple buddies that were mutual friends. They vouched for him. And I'm like, hey, is this going to fit my JZX 100 with stock engine mounts, like stock engine bay? And dude's like, yes, it will fit. So I'm expecting this manifold by Friday. Doesn't show up. He sends it Saturday. I'm expecting it Monday. Doesn't show up. Tuesday afternoon, it comes in. Well, I'm already occupied, so I start on it Wednesday, and I'm like, hey, you know what? It's just going to be boom, boom, bop, put it on, make a new downpipe and oil return hose, and we're going to load up and go to the dyno on Thursday and make some boost. That is not how this shit played out at all.
It fit like a glove, didn't it?
No, it did not. So right off rip, I lay the I took all the old stuff off. I mean, been doing this shit for a while. VVTi JZs or 1J specifically is fucking easy. Like you can get the hot side out in like 30 minutes, not even trying. So 30 minutes, my old setup's out. Everything's clean, degreased, ready for reinstallation. I'd already cleaned the threads in the head, like precautionary, because I didn't want any issues. I lay the manifold up, and the wastegate like runner and flange is sitting directly in front of the steering rack U-joint. Right. And I just took a picture. I sent it to the dude and I'm like, hey man, like what the fuck is this? Right. Guaranteed fitment didn't fucking work. Dude's like, I'll give you $50 for the one weld that it's going to take to move that. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's not about that. Like, I'm on a time crunch. I put my faith in your product. You gave me reassurance. Shit didn't work, right? So now, you know, most people would sit there and whine and bitch and complain and yada, 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 and throw a hissy fit and go back and forth. I just told the dude, I was like, you know what, dude, I don't give a shit. I have to make it to the dyno in like 36 hours. Like, I don't have time for this shit. So, anyways, I luckily have a TIG welding machine that I am slowly learning on. And that gives me the ability to weld stainless steel. I don't have the back purge kit yet, but you know, you make shit work.
Aluminum foil and a hose, bro.
Yeah, I spent probably fucking 5 hours modifying this turbo manifold to fit the car. There were some other issues where, and it all made sense afterwards. This dude just winged it. He has a 1JZ VVTi swapped Supra, and Supra is their front rack, so they don't have that issue with the wastegate being in that position. The other issue was having a smaller frame, this GTX 3584 with a T3 housing. The oil return sat too low and didn't have enough clearance to this T3 T4 hybrid flange on the manifold. My oil return hose was actually hitting the larger side of what would be the T4 flange. So I had to notch the turbo flange itself. Then I had to deck that as well to ensure that it was flat to get a gasket seal. And yeah, I ended up spending 2.5 days on this thing. I canceled the dyno. And yeah, Seth's gonna do his thing with a laptop and some Bluetooth, and we'll see what we can make happen.
Some geometry.
Gotta unleash the beast.
So I'll tell you, like, for me, right, doing this for a living, I think if you're serious about building cars as a hobbyist, or you're serious about, obviously, if you're serious about getting into it as a job, you got to learn fabrication at some degree. You got to pick up a welder, and it's really like where you're going to go from here to here as far as like what your capabilities are, what you're able to do, your build qualities, because you're going to run into shit like this. I wish I had a picture of the ridiculousness that is my intercooler piping on my 3-rotor with like 500 fucking titanium pie cuts, because the turbo basically sat over the top of the intercooler and it was just a shit show. Yeah. You know, there's manifold fitment issues. You know, I was in the same boat as Adrian last week with the RB25. I got given a manifold down here by a good friend, and we put it in. I was like, bro, the turbo's like sitting against the firewall, and the wastegate hit the steering rack, right? And God bless him, he's like, well, it fit great in my Safiro. That's a completely different chassis than right? Like, so, I mean, he's not wrong. So we had to modify the wastegate runner, same as you. Basically, I had to cut it back. Which, for those guys that haven't messed with manifolds, man, there's like a way that you assemble them, right? You'll do like your runners and then put them to the flanges, or vice versa. Just depending on how those runners are shaped and how they weave through each other and shit like that. So, like, modifying a manifold never goes well. Like, I'll just take an inch off of this. No, you're not. Right. So we were lucky. It was basically, it looked like someone had welded a wastegate extension on from where the original flange was anyway. So I basically just chopped that back on the bandsaw with some bandsaw, some angle grinder, a little flap disc action. For those guys that are ever in this position and they don't realize it, you can bend your tungsten on a TIG welder if you've never done that. So you use like a BBW ferric cup, strike a couple arcs to get that tungsten red hot, and then just take pliers and bend it, and you can actually make the tungsten point around the pipe to the blind side. So it works really well with like roll cages, manifolds, things like that. I learned that from my buddy at Reactive Fab. So yeah, we modified that. And then the downpipe from hell, And then we made the downpipe with fucking all the pie cuts because it basically wrapped around the brake booster. And then we couldn't get the downpipe in and out of the car because of the double diaphragm brake booster on the Skyline. So then we had to find a single diaphragm brake booster, which we stole off of Miata, which then we had to modify the master cylinder to fit the Miata brake booster. And then we finally got the downpipe in, and then everything was so close that the brake booster wanted to catch on fire. And then the heat shielding that we tried to put on, that caught on fire while we were on the dyno. And it just became like this domino effect of like.
It's always a domino effect, no matter how plug and play
Always.
it's become, dude. Like, so believe it or not, actually, like, and so it doesn't matter if you buy something that's name brand, you buy it off of eBay, you get it secondhand, whatever it is, shit always comes up, right? Like, if you're getting into this hobby, if you're doing it as a job or whatever it is, there's some essential tools that you need to have when you're getting in this deep, right? Like, if you're doing turbo kits and whatever else, a welder, like gas shielded welder, not a flux core from Harbor Freight, is a must. Like, you can still MIG weld stainless steel, right? Like, I've done it on multiple cars. It holds up perfectly fine, whatever. You don't have to jump right out the gate and go get crazy back purge kit, the best TIG welder that's out there, and a whole bunch of ferrite cups and all that shit. But like, this is a manifold, which, come to find out, is he made the first design and then he sent it overseas for them to like tack everything up and jig it. And now he just orders like a dozen at a time and they send it over to him and he finishes the welds. So the weld quality is great, but like fitment and whatever, it's not always the same. But, you know, Tony's 6-boost manifold, he ordered it with twin scroll, twin gates. They forgot to put the fucking wastegates, the runners on there.
Jesus.
So now we're at this dilemma where it's like, hey man, we waited a month for them to make it and then ship it to us. So like, are we sending this back and getting another one? Or like, dude, you just take it into your hands and like weld the fucking gates on there, right?
Just weld it on, dude. It's scheduled
Exactly.
40,
Exactly. So, you know, go get some Schedule 40 bends and some stuff and chop it up and spend a day welding it together, do some back purge, and get fancy with it. But yeah, it doesn't matter if you're buying name brand or you're buying Chinese shit, like, stuff is always going to pop up.
Dude, what I'll tell you too is the more experience you get at this, even the high-end brand stuff, man, like I've got obviously a ton of high-end brand stuff on my cars. We'll jump into the Skyline blowing up here in a little bit, but because RB is doing RB things. But you're not going to be satisfied with like the fitment and like where everything sits, right, until you build it yourself. And you're just not. So, you know, I'll use Reactive Fab for example, dude. The dude's manifolds are fucking next level. I mean, his welds, everything are next level. James is an artist with this shit. And he built a couple of recirc kits.
The Filipino Wi-Fi be kicking, boy.
He needs to get some of this Bitomonics. But no, just like you guys are saying, dude, it's the same thing in the motorcycle world. It really is, man. And like Seth was saying, you can buy name brand stuff. It's still going to come out all fucked up. And, you know, my Sportster was a prime example. We cut the frame, hardtailed it, chain converted it, and then we were like, oh, well, the forks are bent, so what are we going to do? We're going to spend $1,000 on some forks and tubes, or we're going to put a Springer front end. Even a decent Springer front end, we're still spending, you know, anywhere from $800 and $900. So you take your $800 or $900 to throw a TC Brothers front end on it, and you know, you're still making those changes. You're still fabricating. You're still modifying the neck bearing. You're still deciding if you have to rake or not. You know, things like that. And I looked at some. I had ordered some battery boxes for bobber builds, and they're supposed to have fit certain battery sizes and look flashy and things like that. I'm like, okay, well, they come raw metal, so I'm like, oh, that's cool. I can paint them however I want. Not a big deal. Well, they turned out to not fit at all. Everything was misaligned, and at the end of the day, I ended up just trashing it. I cut it up, shortened it, I modified it, and that still wasn't enough. So I straight up made my own. You know what I mean? I went to the steel yard and grabbed some sheet metal and started bending and welding. And sometimes that's what you got to do. And like Seth was saying, in this industry, if you don't learn to fabricate and do things on your own, then you're not going to be able to take that step from here to here. You know what I mean? You're only holding yourself back. And I learned that early on. Again, watching Seth and some other counterparts and seeing how they're excelling in their business. I'm like, man, like what am I missing? How do I take it to the next level? One, having the right equipment, right? Buying a tire machine was a big money maker for me. So I bought a tire machine, and then I bought a better welder, and now I'm looking at a newer welder. I'm trying to get a TIG and a MIG welder. Something that's going to do a little bit more for me.
Yeah.
Beginning of this year, I bought a pipe bender. You know what I mean? I would have said before, okay, I'll use a pipe bender maybe once or twice a year, and here I am using it every other week. You know what I mean? So invest in yourself, and it really comes down to how bad you want it. How bad do you want to excel and take it to the next level? So.
Oh yeah. But I mean, like, also, if you're the garage mechanic that wants to sit here and build a car, like in today's economy, it's cheaper to buy the products. Like, I'm in a group chat right now with a bunch of drifters here, and like we're all paying our cars, and then it's time to do liveries, right? And so when you're trying to get a livery done and you go out and you get a quote for like $3 or $4 grand to get one done. Hey, what's up, Cody?
What's up?
So when you're trying to get a quote to get one done, and it's like it's the same livery, it's the same stickers, whatever, it's just different positions on the car. And you're talking about a team of like 10 drivers. That's fucking $30,000-$40,000 on the line, right? Like, so at some point you have to sit down and say, hey, we're just hobbyists. We work on our own cars. We assemble them. We like modify. We make our knuckles. We make our exhausts. We do minor fabrication work. We can blast in some cages. But like, does it make sense collectively to drop 40 grand on this business to get our shit wrapped? Or should we spend the $2,000 to get the printer, have somebody with a computer actually sit down, work Photoshop, and like come up with some designs over the course of like a month or two, and print the stuff, and we'll be in it with materials and everything, probably $3 to $4 grand, the price of like one wrap job, right?
Yeah,
and then
the fraction of the cost.
But then the thing that you have to look at is like, okay, if 10 guys were going to pay 40 grand, like $4 grand a pop, you now split that $4 grand cost 10 ways. So instead of paying $4 grand, you're paying 400. And with the excess material, like now you can sit there and duplicate your designs on the spot, because you're going to save those files. You're going to have spares printed out, right? Now as a business, though, you can also turn around and say, hey, we're doing prints. You can do all your buddies' vinyls, all your buddies' team slaps, sell it to them for whatever price, right? Like, you're expanding your business. It's something that sits against the wall. You need a computer to run it, and you just buy the raw material, right? Same thing with that tube bender. I literally bought a tube bender and made my money back after making 2 bash bars.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Right? Like, and I did the swag upgrade with the hydraulic ram. So I just sit there and hold the button, dude. Like, I make sure everything's level. I measure everything out. I do some basic geometry and some measurements. And like, I sit there, I hold the button, and it bends everything for me. I don't even have to bolt the thing into the ground. And it gets the job done. I sit there, I weld it up in 30 minutes, and boom, it's done. And there's a source of revenue. Even though I bought it, because for me to buy bash bars for the Sylvia and the JZX would have been almost $2 grand. Right?
You go spend 500 on material and 300 on a pipe bender.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is like, if you take pride in your work when it comes to metal fabrication, you will never not have business. Like, and I wholeheartedly believe that.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, you'll be turning people away, or like, in the case of myself, or the people I've dealt with, or people I've reached out to on behalf of my father for his build. We'll wait the time, because we know if everybody is trying so hard, if you're that busy, it's worth it. You're gonna take pride in your work. You're gonna take your time, and it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Taking pride in your work, and not only that, but let your work speak for itself. As I mentioned earlier on the podcast, I got this operations, 2 operations coming up, and I'm going to be down for a while. But this guy came in, and I explained that to him. I said, "Look, man, I'm not taking any new clients until January 1 because we've already got a backlog. We've already got projects to set us up for the year." And he's like, "I don't care. I'll wait. Let me pay you a deposit, and this is what I want, man. I'll start emailing you some ideas. I want you to build me a bike no matter how long it takes." So, absolutely. But
I'm
fabrication,
back.
dude, we're talking about fabrication, man. Like Cody made a good point. If you can fabricate and you take pride in your work, you always have business.
Yeah, dude,
You know?
for sure. What I was getting at, dude, is too right before I got cut off is like it doesn't matter the high end parts, the low end parts, like Adrian was saying. There's gonna be fitment issues on almost everything, especially the more customized you become. So when a company, even RTech, up 6 Boost, like all these companies, right? Full race, they're saying, hey, this manifold fits this car. They mean this manifold fits this car before you fucking lowered your subframe, fucking change your steering rack, fucking right, and change geometry of shit before you put aftermarket X, Y, and Z in. So keep that in mind, dude, as you guys move through this adventure. Also, unfortunately, the rarer your engine is, the more bullshit comes with it in this regard. With the 3-rotor, I think I went through like 15 fire adapters because everyone tested it on a 3-rotor, right? Even my Billet Boss front plate, that was a 3-rotor billet plate, was not designed for the 3-rotor counterweight because they never actually built a 3-rotor, right? So I had to shave down like a $6,000 billet aluminum engine plate to clear the counterweight because they're like, oh, we made it, and they fabricated it and they CNC'd it, but they never fucking tested it. So
Yeah, I agree, man. You run into that with everything. I mean, literally, I think the general rule of thumb is the more customized you get into your build, the more problems you're going to run into with fitment, with quote unquote tested products, things of that sort. Because I imagine, Seth, in your case, they probably built it for a 2-rotor and it fit fine, I'm sure. And then they said, with the 3-rotor, all we got to do is drill this extra hole or whatever the case is. Let's make those modifications, but they never actually fitted into a 3-rotor. It's the same concept with other parts,
So that's exactly what they did. They made the front, intermediate, and rear plate for a 2-rotor for a RU, right? And then I have so many problems with Billet Boss. I hate them so fucking much. So bolt-on engine, right? We'll just jump into this for a second. Bolt-on engine. Oh, it bolts on. No motor mount provisions at all. Nowhere to put motor mounts. They're like, oh, well, the front housing cover uses the cross brace, which is what the 12As and the RX3s used, right? The old SA22s, the FAs, and the fucking like RX3s and previous. They used a brace that went across the front. So it's basically like transmission mount, engine mount at the very front of the engine, right? Cool, but you can't now sell that as a fucking bolt-on engine for a 3-rotor or a fucking RU because there's no motor mounts. You know what I mean? Like, so we had to literally fabricate motor mounts from scratch and use extra bolt holes that were just randomly on the plates just to get the engine in the fucking car. And so if they just put these 3 holes, the OEM 20B sat perfectly on the subframe, perfectly. They never simulated, like I said, dude. The front counterweight on a 20B is about 1 inch thick, 1.5 inch thick. The 2-rotor is about fucking 3/4 inch, right? So when you spun the counterweight in the front stack, it hit the oil galley. Because they literally made a 2-rotor and then just made the thick plate CNC model for the 20B and were like, we can make a 3-rotor. Elite Rotary and their drive-by-wire adapters before they went out of business. And a couple others. This is a drive-by-wire adapter for a 20B. Well, it's not because the 20B intake IACV port on the actual manifold itself is underneath the throttle body mount, like a half moon. The rotaries, the FDs is like a triangle for anyone that's ever seen, right? It's 4 bolts and then it goes to a triangle fitment. And the ICV is on the backside. The ICV for 20B is on the bottom. So it literally doesn't even cover the whole fucking manifold flange. And they were like, no refunds, it fits. Bro, I'm sitting here with a 3-rotor. No, the fuck it doesn't. Like, yeah.
It's literally in my hand. How the fuck are you going to tell me it fits if I'm telling you it doesn't? It's right here. Yeah, no, I've dealt with that numerous times, and like I said, the more customized you get into your build, the smaller your market gets for parts, and people
Oh
need to
yeah.
understand that. You know what I mean? I did some work with Mikey Loco. I looked over. I got to see his the only single-sided swing arm Road King in the world. I got to go look at it while I was in the process of being built, and just talking through it, man, seeing the different channels he had to go through and the different avenues he had to go down just to try and make this work as a single-sided swing arm Harley Davidson, still belt driven, was exceptional. I mean, it was crazy the amount of work he had to go through to get it done, and he even said the same thing I did earlier. Look, at the end of the day, it was easy for them to just fabricate it in shop and make it the way they need it made, as opposed to trying to make something else fit or modifying somebody else's work. And
Well,
I think we can all attest to that. You know what I mean? It gets challenging.
and it's not always that a machinist or fabricator, I think, maybe necessarily know what they're doing or talking about, but the speaking between, what what somebody wants versus what the machinist, the lingo doesn't always mesh, even though they probably could do it. I mean, if you're talking, you could put most people. I'm not saying Seth is an exception to this, but being able to run a CAD file or look over G code and see how everything runs. I mean, I'll be the first that I ran G code, but I don't 100%. Like, I have to look in a book. I can't read everything.
Oh yeah, dude. I design everything in Fusion and then let that generate the G code. I don't go back and read the G code myself, dude. Like, for sure.
Like my younger brother, he's a whiz at it and will build out something on to machine, and it'll be like 10,000 lines of G code, and I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way. Like, just tell me the basics as far as
I'm not reading all that shit.
No, it's not.
So I think one other thing, Cody, I think you'll agree with this too, is even if you have a really good machinist. So like I have my manufacturers that make some of my titanium parts that I CAD design and things like that, right? And 99.99% of the time, dude, they arrive and they're ready to fucking package and ship. Like, they're good to go because the machinist is solid. The 1%, the one-off chance, like this was the titanium oil necks I had designed for the R7s. I still have, because I left them in Japan. But half of them, the caps went on perfect, dude. Like, our titanium oil fill caps fit perfect. The OEM cap was binding. And it wasn't because it was machined wrong. It's literally the micrometers of difference because they fucking machined the threads, right, the top of it, and then they made the tube, and then they welded those two parts together where it tapers down, and that just shrunk those threads like this much, right? So
Well, I mean, it could even be something as simple as somebody didn't change out an end mill, and the end mill looks fine, but if you're talking minute numbers, that could be catastrophic. So
yeah, dude. And then the age-old adage that double check everything, which bit me in the ass this last week. So for those of you that don't know, we lost the RB25 again. I was fucking furious. I originally thought that maybe when we pulled it down, the half moon on the Kelford cam had broken off flush inside there. I thought maybe that had caused the cast to skip timing. Not the case. The teeth held everything in place the way it should have because timing was already set. Had a conversation with my rep at Kelford. No issues there. And we're switching out to a PRP trigger kit now anyway, so it's irrelevant. But when I tore it down, man, the bearings were literally welded to the crank. That's on me. I trusted this machine shop. I was in a time crunch of like under a week to get this motor, machined, assembled, try and break it in before the Drift Matsuri for Donald. And dude, I didn't tear everything down and triple check and redo all the clearances because I just paid a machine shop a significant amount of money to do this for me, right? With all their fucking tools while they were boring it, checking the line bore and everything else on the block. Yeah, dude, I think someone just wrote some numbers on a paper and went to lunch because main bearing 1, I literally had to chisel off of the crank. It was like fusion welded to it. We basically every bearing except like 2 bearings in the whole engine are fucked. So we're out of crank now, as well as our engine. So thanks for that. Looking at a few possibilities right now. Donald's got an 08U crank from the Neo that he's looking at possibly getting down here for us. Otherwise, I'm talking to my rep at Brian Crow right now. Then I may just jump on the 2.9 liter fucking stroker bandwagon as well. Because Tony won't leave me alone and keeps calling me a pussy if I don't.
I mean, at some point, you got to run what you sell. So,
Well, it's not even that. It's sometimes it's just worth it to do it for the simple lack of having a headache. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if Lego pieces go together, quit trying to connect pieces with the Lego pieces and just fucking do it.
This is a really good time to butt in and address the actual issue that's going on, right? And this is something that everybody across the board has to realize. This wasn't Seth's fault with the build or the tune, okay? This was the machine shop and their inability to perform. So what does that mean? Cool. You go with the 2.9 liter stroker kit, right? Who's putting it in? Who's clearancing it? Right? So you have to, yeah, okay. Where's that line hone machine at, right?
Stand by, fucker.
Okay, exactly.
Well, so
but
we actually
no. But that's the thing is, this is going to be his first. If he were to do it, this would be his first build, his first setup, his first time running the machines and shit like that. It's one thing to say, okay, let's jump for the build and go reassemble a new bottom end with all new parts. And like, I don't know if you guys know, but some of these cranks and parts that come in from these manufacturers, a lot of these parts that were during COVID and post COVID are dog shit, dude. Like literally, I've heard of ARP shit snapping off in motors after like break-in tunes, like upgraded ARP stuff, right? Like rod bolts and shit like that. Fucking Max Wheel just broke all his wheel studs on his Corvette, sheared off at New Jersey, I think. ARP wheel studs, dude. Like, you put your faith in these products, but like during COVID, a lot of shit got outsourced, and it's not the same quality that we associate with these name brands. But that being said, here you are in a position to build a motor, and until you fix that issue with that shitty machine shop and their quality of work, like, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do, dude. Like, you're still going to be in the same position.
Yeah, dude, so that becomes a problem. Like, for sure, 100%, we are going to be looking at investing into our own boring machine, fly cutting machine, and line bore, possibly a valve cutter, so we can do oversized valves. But that's not going to be today, right? So that is a problem, and we got to figure out the machine shop. Sorry, I'm plugging the laptop in, dude. And you're right. So how do we fix it? Well, I'm going to another reputable shop that I know that's run by an Australian here, and I'm going to trust the Australian and the machine shop he uses. You know what I mean?
They got utes, bro. Gotta trust them.
So,
well, like we're
gonna try that one.
Adrian and I talked about it with Kevin last week about, you know, I didn't want to speak on your business because you weren't in here, obviously, and I'm not going to put what your plans are and stuff. But I mean, I had mentioned that you had your future plans of having your own machine shop basically in house. So.
Yeah, this basically cemented that. I just got to figure out where I'm getting the few $100,000 for the machines.
I felt that, dude. But like Adrian said, dude, Adrian made a good point, man. And people tend to forget. I know a lot of people say COVID was bullshit, this, that, and the third. Look at our economy, man. This shit sucks, bro. Like, it costs. It's less for me to go out and eat than it is to go buy groceries at my house at this point, and that says something about America as a whole, but also our worldwide e-commerce. You know what I mean? Look at everybody that was impacted. What people fail to realize is America, I mean, the world is still recovering from COVID. There's shit that's still on back order that we can't get yet. You know what I mean? And we're 2 years post-COVID, and we still can't get fucking parts shipped. Manufacturers are still trying to catch up from that hiring freeze or from that lack of employees or lack of performance. There's so many businesses out there, name brand and not, that are trying to recover, and they're trying to recover in a shit economy. You know what I mean? So,
and dude, it's not just that. It's you know, it's a global problem. So, I mean, during COVID, I had parts on order for over a year, right? EFR turbos. And it gets to the point where it's like, all right, this is how Seth has always been. Built an engine. These are the parts I've always used because they're reliable, they're proven, right? Da, 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 da. What happens when I can't get those parts? Now I've got to start going outside of what I like and what I want to use. And then you add on to what Adrian was talking about, right? Now you start getting these companies, these big manufacturers, the parts suppliers, they're not able to get the number or the quantity of parts they're used to. So now their quality control is going to be a little bit looser, probably because they don't want to kick back 1,000 ARP head studs back to the manufacturer. You know what I mean? So they're going to let them fly and hope for the best. Then you start getting broken studs and shit like that, rod bolts. I have received EFR turbos brand new from Borg Warner with broken fucking compressor blades. Like,
Damn.
they're like, no, it's not us. I'm like, bro, the rest of the blade's literally laying in the box. Like,
they're trying to find the fastest way to produce and catch up with the market, and they're lacking in quality control. I mean, they're just trying to pump it out, dude. They're trying to get their numbers back up, you know, and I get that from a business perspective, but at the same time, you're hurting the consumer, and we're the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, dude, look at the HKS floor mats that I put on order for guys almost a year ago, right? One of the guys hit me up today. I got to refund his money, it looks like, because HKS just canceled his order. No notification, nothing like that. Just like after a year, they just canceled his shit. And some of the other guys that they didn't get canceled yet, their shit's pushed back to December now. It was supposed to be like a May release, something like that. So,
I mean, I'm in the same boat, man. I'm building a Challenger that was in a DUI wreck. I'm rebuilding a Challenger. Not only did Mopar say, hey, we're not going to make the Challenger no more after this year, but they're slow on making parts. I've had a subframe on back order for over a year and a half.
Yeah.
Damn.
Dude, it sounds like you need to get the tube bender out and make a subframe.
Yeah.
Sure. I thought about it.
Hey, that's honestly the way it's going. The shops that are going to survive long term now are the guys that can fabricate, the guys that can overcome these part shortages, right? The guys that can do CAD designs, the guys that can afford to get a CNC machine in house and start manufacturing their own shit. Like, these are the shops that will survive long term these days. Because
100%.
I think if anything, dude, COVID proved that you can't rely on the fucking supply chains.
No,
Like,
absolutely.
if you're not in house, dude, you're fucked.
Like, that's definitely a big thing, but it's also the companies that are willing to pay employees that have that knowledge. Because I've worked for companies that, you know, they have everything that you could dream of having, you know, and then they still don't want to pay. Like, you're paying for experience at that point. You're not, and you're paying for getting that product and quality every single time, but you know, they're hurting their bottom line by paying an employee X amount of dollars, and they don't want to do that anymore.
I think it cut both ways, though. I think the employees shot themselves in the foot during COVID too. Just speaking generically, right? Like, how cutthroat did it become to find employment during COVID?
Oh,
And
extremely.
after COVID, right? And now you've created this environment where half the guys are like, I only want to do remote work. I only want to do X, Y, and Z. Oh, you're not going to pay me $35 an hour straight out of college. I'm not going to take the job. Like, or some, oh, I had 35 years bodywork experience. I'm a master painter. Dude, you were just a prepper. You've actually never sprayed, and it comes out on your first job. And now I hired you, and you just wasted $3,000 in material trying to spray a candy that you have no fucking business spraying, right? And it's because everyone's overselling themselves. So it cuts both ways. Like, from a business owner's perspective, I can only believe about half the shit that my employees tell me.
Right.
I mean, I can understand that, but I mean, I think that there should be I'm going to say, from a blue collar standpoint, I never had a problem finding a job, if you had a knowledgeable skill. But you know, even if let's say I come work for you, and we agree on X amount of dollars, but I mean, I'll take the pay cut. But hey, if I can prove that I'm that good,
sure,
put me where I'm supposed to be at. I don't want to leave. Nobody really wants to leave a position. I mean, if they're getting taken care of. And I think that's the problem.
That's definitely a thing, dude. That's definitely a big thing as a business owner. It sucks, dude. Like, the economy is hitting so hard for business owners globally. I mean, even here, man, every time I turn around, it's like, oh, I made $600 US today. oh, I have $1,200 in fucking bills that came in today. Oh, this thing broke. Right after 10 years, this one thing let go. Oh, the fucking dyno, one of the dyno straps hit the fucking axle and got worn through while I was on the dyno session. Like, and no one was paying attention and saw it while I was inside the car. Like, it's non-fucking stop, dude. And so, yeah, a lot of times we want to push employees up. We want to pay them more. Like, we enjoy them as workers and we want them to stay, but like, we don't have the fucking budget, dude. You know what I mean? Like, we just can't.
I mean, during COVID, man, during COVID, my business as a whole struggled, and I think that speaks volumes for a lot of people. But I've had to make that decision, man. I had 2 employees that were fantastic. One of them being a fabricator. I was paying them good, but it came to a point where I had to tell them, hey, man, look, I have to cut your hours because I can't afford you anymore. I mean, business is hard right now. And I'm fortunate enough to have gotten through COVID, but we're still recovering just like every other business. And, you know, I've had to make the decision to tell my employee, hey, look, man, if you have a better opportunity, go take it, you know, because this is all I can offer. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not even paying myself right now. You know what I mean? I'm trying to take care of you guys. But now it's at the point where I'm coming out of pocket to pay you as opposed to coming out of business funds to pay you. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have to make that hard decision, and it's humbling. I'll say that to begin with. You know, it's very humbling to come to that decision and let an employee know, hey, look, man, I just can't afford you. You know, but that's the reality of it, and that's a lot of people's reality nowadays, especially as small business owners and people just trying to make it. You know, Seth, you made a good point. People fluff up their resume all the time. They're just trying to get a job, you know, and they come in demanding $30 an hour right out of college. I'm like, dude, I don't even make $30 an hour. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I'm the business owner. You know, I don't even make $30 an hour. So how am I going to pay you $30 an hour? You know, but people don't.
Yeah,
you know, it's hard. I'll say the uneducated, you know, employees out there don't quite understand that because all they see is, oh, I come to work. This is my boss. This is my job. I go home. I wish it was that simple. You know what I mean? I leave the shop. I come home. I sit at my desk and do invoices. I do billing. I do accounting. I do all of it because I can't afford to hire an accountant again. You know, and that's just the way it is, man. And you know, again, people need to take that in consideration when dealing with business owners. When you come in asking for a fucking discount, when you come in asking, hey man, can you give me the homie hookup on this? No, dog, I got food to put on my table and I'm barely doing that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like I said, people need to understand that. And if you can't, then this is not the industry for you. You got to leave. You know what I mean? Go work at McDonald's and make that $15 an hour.
I want to jump in because it's kind of back to the parts don't fit side of this, right?
Hey, finally! Holy shit!
So we got a car in here right now, and you guys are tracking the RB20 that another shop just basically fucked this build, like totally fucked this build.
Is this the pink Ute?
Yeah, the pink one, dude. Like the wiring was fucked, the engine was fucked that he was sold. The injectors were the wrong size for the turbo because they went top mount, single, like upgraded. The steering rack is pouring oil from inside of it. Like the whole car just needs basically completely redone. And we put the estimate together for the client, and he's like, I don't want to spend that much. We're like, okay. He's like, well, what if we LS swap it? But LS motors here are imported at 22% tax, right? So as an example, an LS1 used goes for about 400,000 pesos, so about 8,000 US, give or take. No trans. An LS3 goes for about 20,000 US dollars, crate motor. And then you get into like the LS8, things like that, dude. You're just dropping like 100K on the crate motor itself. So, but you know, it was like, well, 400K seems like a lot for an engine without a transmission. I was like, even if it comes with a transmission, dude, we've got to fabricate motor mounts. I've got to fabricate a new sump. I've got to fabricate drive shafts. I've got to wire the car. I've got to tune the car. Your current ECU doesn't support it. Like cooling, radiator fitment, cooling fan, right? Air intake for the LS, hood clearance. And so you want it to fit, but it just doesn't fit. You know what I mean?
Bro,
like,
nothing fucking fits ever.
Like,
not without some massaging.
Just because you saw it on YouTube, dude, doesn't mean it just fits. You know what I mean? And then the same thing. He's like, well, what about RB26? I was like, yeah, that's easier because your trans bolts up. He's like, well, it comes with a trans. Yeah, but it's the wrong trans. It's an all-wheel drive trans with an output for the transfer case, right? So we can't use that. Also, I have to take the bottom of the engine apart, cut the fucking diff off, weld the oil pan, modify the oil pan just to get it to fit up again, right? And the same thing, we have to go top mount single. We can't run the twins because it's not going to fit in the engine bay. Like on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So yeah, the parts don't fit when you start doing custom shit. The parts don't fit. Someone has to make them fit.
Not only that, but I mean, in my experience, when you're talking about older stuff, right? Working on stuff in the '90s, early 2000s, even now, like again, early 2000s, even it's hard to find parts for now. You know what I mean? We're 2024, dude. You know, go back. You know, you can go back as far as 10 years and find everything accessible within 10 years. You know what I mean? Outside of that 10-year window, shit just gets harder and harder to find that fits. So you're going to have to do that fabrication. You're going to have to do those modifications to make them fit, you know, and it sucks. But at the end of the day, you know, taking on that skill and expanding your abilities within your own shop is the best thing you can do, especially as a business owner in this economy.
I think God help us, Adrian. You're right-hand driving America, and I'm left-hand driving Asia.
Bro,
Ain't
people
shit
do
fitting
not.
over there, dude.
Well, that's why I
That's
say
kind of
not
back
understand
asswards if
this
you ask
shit,
me.
right? Look, people don't understand this shit where they're like, oh yeah, bro, just slap an LS in it. And I'm like, look, dude, it's like putting an LS in a right-hand drive car is almost impossible. Like,
Fucking nightmare.
dude, I like right off rip in the Sylvia, there's only one company that makes right-hand drive headers to LS swap and S chassis, right? It's Siki. Now, Siki only guarantees the fitment if, first of all, you're using a T56 transmission only, and you are using their entire catalog of swap parts. And then on top of that, they don't tell you that you have to purchase a Willwood reverse swing clutch pedal and put that in the car so that the reservoir and master cylinder are inside the cabin and not in your engine bay. Okay? So just the conversion parts from Siki runs about $4,000 to $5,000 before you even talk about getting that junkyard 5.3, the T56, the fucking drive shaft, right? The cam package that you want, the Holly to tune it, the fucking radiator, you know,
your
a new water
axles that
pump and
won't
shit.
snap.
Yeah, like people don't understand that, and like when you add it up, you're spending like $12,000 to $14,000 to put a 350 horsepower LS in your fucking car, and I'm like, I can 1J swap my car for half that
And make more power.
Yeah, like and make 550 with the turbo and injectors. Like,
Yeah, dude, it's there is for everyone out there that doesn't realize it, dude. What we're saying to you is there is no easy answer anymore. Like motorsports cost money, cars cost money.
dude,
right?
it
Unless
does.
And it really
fabricating
comes
yourself,
down to
dude.
what do you really want? Like at the end of the day, like if somebody wants a LS swap, that's what they want. They're going to spend the same amount of money, you know, as a JZ swap or
And their wife's
an
probably
RB
their
swap.
sister, you know?
And
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. But everybody has their.
Yeah, incest.
You got to
but
pick. You got
it
to
is
pick.
what it is.
At this
One-
point, it's
one
just
thing-
pick your poison.
One thing that I've seen is like Harley owners in particular. I'm a Harley owner. I've got it tattooed on my hand. I love Harley Davidsons.
Hey,
So when they come in and say, "Oh, I want a stage 2," okay, you want a stage 2? All right, man. That's literally like an air cleaner, a tune, and some pipes. Oh no, I want to build it. Okay, well, what do you want to do? I want to make it look like an ST. I want you to powder coat the rocker boxes and do. I said that's not building a bike. That's just making it yours. You know what I mean? Really. And they come in and they drop $1,500, and they're like, oh, $1,500 for bars and this, that, and maybe some wheels. Okay, cool. Yeah, you did a badass build. That's not a build, dude. You know what I mean? A build is the $7,000 that I dropped on that Sportster. You know what I mean? That's a build where I'm cutting the frame, fabricating, bending pipe, welding, making battery boxes, shit like that. Like no shit, making a tank that doesn't belong on this bike fit on this bike. You know what I mean? That's building something. You know what I mean? But you're talking about, I want to do these bolts on this and bolts on that. I'm like, dude, listen, you're gonna spend money. You want it done right, or you want it done like shit because Harley will sell you anything that you want to buy. You want to buy a cam, go buy a cam from them. You want to go buy air cleaner, go buy an air cleaner. But it ain't going to do shit for you because you got to do the support and mods with it. And that's what people understand. I had a guy come in last week. He's like, yeah, I got a cam in this. I got to start racing 30-30. Okay, that's cool, man. It's a badass cam. Did you get it tuned? Oh, no, I don't need a tune. No, you need a tune. Did you do lifters? No. Did you do adjustable push rods? No. Well, why not? Those are all things that you need. Well, they didn't tell me that. I said they're not going to tell you that. You know what I mean? They're not going to tell you that you need all of these supporting mods to actually make power. All you're doing is putting a cam in to make a chop, and that's all you're going to get is a chop. You're not getting no power pickup from it. You're not getting shit from it.
Dude, that's a point that needs to be put out to the viewers right now. You need, when you're going to a shop, right, and you're buying a part, you need to ask them what else needs to be done. Because I've seen so many shops now. Like, if you come to my shop, yeah, my bills look high because I literally will sit there and be like, yeah, bro, you can get that, but also we need to do this, and this to make it work right. A lot of shops will be like, yeah, dude, you want a cam? Here's a cam.
Yep.
Right? And they're just going to take that sell. And they're going to wait for you to break something, and then they'll sell you something else.
Yep.
They'll wait for you to break that, and they'll sell you something else.
Well, that's how they make the fucking money, dude. Like,
Well, that is also on the consumer. I will wholeheartedly, I will die on that hill. Like, if you go there and say that you want this cam or whatever, you should have already done some of your fucking research yourself.
But here's you can't blame the consumer, all right? Because we already know that a good majority of these consumers, like, no offense, because I'm one of them, I nickel and dime fucking quotes and shop labor and shit like that because it's literally what the fuck I do, right? But there's a difference when they lack the fucking knowledge and have the foresight of saying, hey, like, I don't know about motorcycles and all that shit, but let's just say we're doing a cam package for an LS because everybody knows LS, right? You're going to have the dude that's like, oh, but I can just buy this cam off of Facebook Marketplace for $200 and I got fucking thumps in my exhaust, right? And you give them the quote and it's like, boom, here's $800 for your cam, your valve train. You know, you get your front cover gasket, your thrust plate. Like, you're incorporating all this. And they're like, oh, you're just upselling me on all this shit, right? And it's like, no, I'm not upselling you on this shit. This is what you need to get the job done right. And then that same dude ends up like reusing the gasket. 10 miles down the road, it springs a fucking oil leak, and he's like, oh, I got an oil leak, I'll fix it never. Like, so when you have those types of consumers populating, you know, the general masses, it's hard to sit there and pitch it to them like, hey, $800 for this cam package, not including installation labor if you want to DIY it, but here's everything that you have. It's far more appealing to say, here's the cam for $300. Here you go, because that's all you asked for.
Right.
No,
because they're going to spend the $300 and not ask.
No,
right?
it's similar. Dude, like,
stop using. Hold on, Cody, because I want to say this. Stop using the fucking small performance shops that know their shit and have the reputation that they're awesome to validate your fucking Amazon shopping cart. You pieces of shit. Right? Dude, I literally had a guy, and you get, I'm going to tell you this right now, man, as a shop owner, as a performance shop owner, we're not dumb. I know what you're doing. I've had 100 people before you do the same fucking thing.
Absolutely.
It's fucking stupid. The latest guy literally hit me up for like NRG short hub and a quick release for his car. First of all, for everyone out there, if you stop calling me and saying you need a fucking quick release and then asking me if it fits your car, they're all universal. You need a hub to fit your car. Two separate pieces. God damn it. All right. I will keep dying on that soapbox. But two, he literally screenshotted his Amazon shopping cart and was like, is this the part number I need? I was like, bro, are you asking me to validate your fucking shopping cart right now? After you
Bro, they needed an adult.
I mean, at least it wasn't Temu. It could have been Temu.
Look, my thing is this. It's similar to, like, on the most, like, level or most understanding way to put it. It's similar to, like, knowing the law. Like, you can't play stupid if like it doesn't matter. Like you should
And
have
look at how
done
many
you should have
dumbasses
done your
still go
due
to jail.
diligence.
Right.
But
It's
it's
as
like
easy as knowing the law, but look at how many people go to jail and get
Yeah.
arrested.
No, 100%.
okay, that's to put it in perspective, it's no different. Like, okay, you bought this cam. Well, now your fucking engine blew up because you didn't have the proper valves and valve springs and retainers. Well, that's your own
Guess
fucking
what?
fault.
Guess what?
And-
Harley
and I
will
don't-
sell you. Harley
the
will sell you
clear-
the cam. You will install it, blow your shit up, and they will not warranty it.
Yeah.
They will
Because you
not
didn't
warranty
clearance
it.
the fucking shims.
Yeah.
Dude, not-
Or your
I
fucking
had a
different-
customer. Look, I had a female customer, and I say this, with the most love. I love her to death. She's been great to me. She's been loyal. Female customer goes to Harley Davidson, says, I want this part, and this part, and this part. Okay, good to go. All right, I'm going to tell you because nobody else is going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right now. If you want to do a cam, because she dropped her lifters, so she was going to do lifters, push rods, and she wanted to do a cam while we're in there. If you do a cam, the cam's going to cost you this much. We're going to do push rods. We're doing adjustables. We're doing this and that. I'm going to tell you right now, if you do a cam, you're going to expect to spend another $800 to get a Power Vision standalone tuner and have it dyno tuned because you have to have it tuned. And she's like, oh, well, they didn't tell me that at Harley. They're not going to. They're not going to. Okay? So do your research. Do your part as a consumer and do your research. Okay? Because don't come into my shop and get your feelings hurt when I tell you the truth. And I'm keeping it real because I don't like fucking people over. Plain and simple. I'm not here to screw you over.
And I'll tell you this too, man. Like I'm just gonna tell you from the fucking perspective of myself, right? After years and years and years of dealing with these guys that want to come in and they want to ask about the cam, and then you advise them they need upgraded springs. We're gonna have to re-clearance the fucking shims under the buckets for like an RB26, for example, et cetera, right? And now they're looking at, well, it was an $800 cam, and now it's a $2,000 fucking job. And they want to argue with you. They're like, no, they're fucking dropping. Tomei says they're dropping. You shouldn't have to clearance anything. They're fucking dropping. Like, you get to the point where you're like, fine, bro, they're dropping. Like, whatever you say. Why the fuck are you asking me then if you know so goddamn much? You know what I mean? Like,
Why didn't you put it in yourself?
Like, dude, we're trying to help you out, man. Like, well, that's the other thing, Cody. Like, dude, people get so mad. Like, oh yeah, I got these bars. They're pre-wired. They should be easy to go. Hey, look, no matter what, I charge $250 to mount bars pre-wired. Okay, I charge $350 if they're not pre-wired. Okay, well, why you charge so much? I said, take your ass to Harley. Pre-wired or not, they're charging you $500 minimum to put those bars on your bike. Straight up. You know what I mean? And people don't understand that. I'm like, dude, you're asking me to do something that you can do yourself. It'll take me 10 minutes. It'll take you 30. Go do it. Why are you bitching about my labor rate? Why are you bitching that your bill is, for bar install and headlight install and this, that, and the third? Come on, dude.
So with that, we've hit our hour, and I have a very, very busy day. So we're headed out to the Formula V race with Gulf Oil here shortly. And then we'll be up at San Fernando SM Mall later today for a massive car show. Something like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 cars, something ridiculous, depending who you ask. We'll have a booth there. We'll have a promo vid up on the Jumbotron. I want to make sure that we get Adrian drifting the pink car in there because I said so. And yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, dude.
Yeah.
That's
Guys,
it for me.
tune into Seth's social media. He's going to be posted online throughout the day. Again, he's in a different time zone. We understand that. But make sure you guys tune into his social media. Share it, like it, follow. And we'll see you guys next week.
Later.